Hi, guys, and welcome to today's episode of Women Empowered. So I'm really excited today because I have a very special guest with me. I don't think I'd even do justice doing an intro for her. So I'd love her to introduce herself to you. I'd love to welcome Lamide Elizabeth to the podcast. Welcome, Lamide.
Hi, everyone. My name is Lamide. I am the CEO of WNB Group, which is a media-powered investment company. So through social media, we help investors invest all around the globe. So I'm the host of the podcast, Building Wealth Without Borders, here on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, wherever podcasts are, I am there. I am also the co-founder of The Pen by Marina Pearl, which is a workspace and podcast studio out here in Dubai, which is where we're currently filming, and the co-founder of The Professional Network as well, which is a community out here in Dubai. I'm an ex-banker. I used to work in investment banking in the UK and in Dubai, and I'm an investor, entrepreneur,
Just superwoman, basically. So I want you to just tell me a little bit about the start. I want to know, what is the motivation behind Lamide Elizabeth? How did it all start? So tell me a little bit about your upbringing. Where did you grow up? Some people may know, but I feel like a lot of people probably actually don't know your story in terms of your childhood. So tell us a bit about your childhood.
Oh, okay. So I grew up in London, in Hackney, not the gentrified Hackney, like the real Hackney a couple years ago. And I grew up with my mum and my three brothers, very much a low income household situation. So, we grew up in not a council estate necessarily, but we were in council housing and stuff. Went to very normal for Hackney schools, but probably across the entire UK, if you're looking at the performance of the schools, probably not the best. So that was kind of my upbringing. But I never sort of like romanticize the struggle in growing up because struggle was so normal because you're living in a low income area. You didn't necessarily realize that you were struggling. You obviously knew that things weren't easy, but it's like you would see your friends' parents also struggling, right? So I remember there were times people would come to school crying because they felt like they were going to get evicted, or lots of people were on free school meals. So it was very normal to be struggling, I guess. It was just, I didn't really you would be aware of certain families that had a little bit more, or like, let's say, for example, if there was someone who was the only child, you would notice that child has more resources, but you just assume that that's just because there's only one kid, right? So that was very much my upbringing, but it wasn't like it was me and my brothers, but we were all very, I don't know if I'd say close, but like we had a good great relationship with my mom in terms of like she was a great mother, and all of that stuff. So didn't grow up with very much, but I had a great upbringing. Like I wouldn't change it for anything.
So you mentioned brothers. So you got how many siblings?
3 brothers. I grew up with my 3 brothers.
Okay, only girl.
Yeah.
So where are you? Are you last born?
I'm second.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
I'm second. But I feel like in that, because especially when you grow up with a single mum, if you have an oldest brother, he kind of becomes like the de facto dad. And I guess in some respects, especially when it came to like money and like just resource management, I felt like I was kind of like the second mum, which I guess a lot of first daughters say. I'm not the first daughter per se because, well, I'm not the first, but I am the first and only girl. So there was a level of responsibility that I felt like was on my shoulders. Like it kind of felt like there were 3 parents, like me, my older brother, and my mum, and then we had like my younger brothers.
Okay, wow, interesting. So I know something. When I first met you, you told me a little snapshot of your story when you got to sixth form, or was it like GCSE?
Yeah,
you took you got a scholarship to go into private school. But how did that come about?
So basically, I went to like a state school for GCSEs, did extremely well. But then I knew that for the subjects that I wanted to do, which was maths, chemistry, history and psychology, that my school wasn't necessarily the best. Like we didn't necessarily have the best teachers, etc. So I really wanted to move schools. And so at that time, there was a school in Stratford that I went to for like a year. But then that school, it was a new school and it was horrible. I just thought new school, this is going to be really good or whatever, but it was so bad. Like we didn't have, like I did chemistry, we didn't have teachers for like half of the year because he couldn't get his visa. And like, it was just a very, very, very like bad school, very disorganized. And like, we were basically teaching ourselves in a lot of respects. I was just like, okay, I need to get out of here. So after I got my results, I literally went for, and I think this is one of the things that is interesting in terms of the way I grew up, and if there was one thing I could change, or if there was something that I think could have had a big difference in my outcomes in life, is the fact that I didn't have any support when it came to education. So there was no one saying, oh, you should go to this school because this school is good, or you should try and get into a grammar school, you should try and do this and that. I was very much left to my devices to like pick schools and stuff. So there was no parental support. But then even for my friends, it was the same thing. Their parents weren't really saying, oh, like you guys are smart, try and get into this school. There was none of that. So then again, I see my results, I'm like, okay, I need to go to a better school. So I literally just go London school rankings and I just call the first school.
Okay. Just off your own back.
Yeah, just off my own back. Like, I've got a phone at least, let me use that. Called them and was like, okay, these are my grades. Do you have any space? And then they're like, yeah, blah, blah, blah. And then they're like, okay, well, but this is a paying school, so you need to pay. And I was like, oh, never mind then. And I cut the phone. And then they called me back. Maybe like after, I'm like going down the list, calling different schools. Then they call me back after maybe like 10 minutes. And they're like, we know that this is that you don't have the funds to pay, but we would love to offer you a scholarship. To basically apply, you need to like write an essay about something. I can't remember what it was. So then I submitted this essay, and then that's how I got the scholarship to go to private school. And yeah, that's how it happened.
Wow.
Yeah.
So was it a 100% scholarship?
Yeah, 100% scholarship.
Wow,
yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. So there was nobody around you that was saying aim for more. You hadn't necessarily seen more, right?
Yeah, no, not really. I did a lot of programs, but all my programs were with other like smart state school kids who also didn't really have parents who had gone through like higher education and stuff. So yeah.
So how was that process? So you're going from Hackney and then you're going into a completely different environment, private school. How was that transition for you?
Oof. So that's definitely one of my least favorite periods of my life. It was not a smart decision to move during A-levels, because A-levels they're like 2 very critical years, especially if you're trying to get into a top university. Like you can't mess up like A-levels. So it was not like in hindsight, I'm so happy I did it, but like it wasn't really the best decision. So when I had moved, I had no friends, and that's not that important, but it is, because I'm so used to, in all my other schools, I would learn with my friends because we didn't necessarily have good teachers. So I would learn with my friends, like we would teach each other. And I think that helped a lot because I don't know, it's just sometimes like a child can actually, someone your age who understands things is sometimes able to explain it better than teachers. So I didn't have any like friends and stuff. And like, it was a very focused year. Everyone's trying to get into uni. So no one was really trying to make friends. I necessarily wasn't trying, but I didn't have any like friend support. So that was already that. But even in just get into the school, like I remember now, I think at that point I was maybe getting like £10 a week or £12.50 a week to go to school, which was in my area, which you get bus. Oyster card was free, so the £2.50, let's say, was for food. But now I was like, okay, I need an extra £10 just for the journey going from Hackney all the way to Kensington High Street. Like this is an hour and a half journey.
Wow.
And I know other people now that I've met who maybe grew up in Essex and maybe like lower middle class families, they were so used to traveling far to go to a good school. But for me, I didn't even know how to use trains. I didn't take trains. Everything that I knew was around me. I lived in Hackney. My mum worked at Homerton Hospital. It's like 15 minutes up the road. My church was like 2 buses away. Like I was never taking trains. So it was this huge change in terms of changing demographics, changing students, changing areas, and then like new teachers, new everything. So mentally it was very, very, very difficult. Like I really struggled. And then you're going from like top of the class to like bottom of the class. So like not even necessarily, like towards the bottom. I think because I just lost a lot of confidence. Should I raise my hand? I don't know. Like classes were smaller in private schools, going from like A-levels were a little bit bigger, but maybe going from like 20 people to like 10 people. So everything feels very much like, it was just a lot. But I think one of the things that it opened my eyes to is just different wealth levels, and that the money, like this was like children of diplomats from different countries. They had drivers that would drop them to school. Parents' evening, parents would fly in for parents' evening, fly back out.
Wow.
They had TVs in their bathtubs. It was just so much, like, it was a huge wealth difference. And like at that point, you kind of just shut up because you're like, I don't even know, I can't even relate to what you guys are talking about. Like, I remember at one of the years, this was when LV did their collab with Supreme, and they all brought credit cards, their parents' credit cards to school. During the class, they were like, I need to get this. One of them was like, oh, I already have my driver in the line. I could not relate. And so it was, personally speaking, it was a very trying year. And I think I lost a lot of confidence. But I guess mentally speaking, I was very much opened up to, oh, wow, there is a whole new world of wealth out there, and that was really impactful.
Wow, amazing. That is just amazing. I don't think a lot of people know that side of you, like in terms of and I feel like those initial like primitive years, I feel like they're so important to like developing your mindset for the future. And I think that's probably a big reason as to your success now, because you just put yourself in a random environment that's challenged you and you got through it.
Yeah.
So let's go on to your influencing journey. So obviously I know once you've finished with university, went to university, you got a job in banking, right? And then obviously now you are a full-time influencer. So I want to know exactly what made you go into this online world. You know, you're working, you're earning a decent salary, you know, your trajectory is quite good. What made you think, let me get online as well?
Cringing at full-time influencer.
Okay.
I never.
But that's what you are.
Do you think so?
I mean, I think to the average person that is not online, that isn't a content creator, if you have a number of following, you are influencing people. I know that a lot of people don't like the term influencer, but you are. It's not an insult. You're influencing people's behaviour, right?
Yeah.
I think maybe it's a term that maybe has now been refined a bit more, but you're influencing people's behaviour. People watch your podcast. They think, I watch Lamide's podcast, therefore I'm going to do this.
True.
I watch Lamide's podcast. Even with me, someone said, I saw you on Lamide's podcast and now I've got 3 rent to rent.
Yeah.
You influence them.
Yeah.
So I think the term is like overused and maybe used in a bad way. But when you put it down to layman terms, what is the term that you prefer?
Now I prefer like entrepreneur and investor.
Okay.
The reason why is because, well, I guess it depends on what you're trying to say, or even content creator like that. I think it would depend. So I would judge it based on where your income comes from. So I would say like if a lot of your income comes from brand partnerships, I would say that person is an influencer. But I know what you're saying in terms of like the influence that you have if you have a following. Yes, which is true. But I guess I kind of think about where do your income streams come from, and I would classify you as that. So for example, people who say they're influencers but you're not making any money from it but you create content, I don't know if I'd call you an influencer. I would just say you're creating content for free.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
But then are they influencing behaviour?
I guess we all influence behaviour because would you call yourself an influencer?
No.
But you influence behaviour too.
Yeah.
You have a whole women empowerment thing. You empower women. You influence people to get rent.
I guess. But I guess it's more like, I don't know. Yeah, I guess it's a debate on its own. But I guess with me, I would say if you've got a certain amount of following, I think I put it down to following. If you've just in terms of layman terms, like if you've got, I don't know, 10k followers or above, and then you've got a different stratosphere, you've got 50k, but I feel like if you're below a certain amount, I don't think you can call yourself, you probably are influencing, but I feel like from a wider perspective, you know, if you were to say, okay, how many followers Lamide got, how many subscribers has she got, she's an influencer.
Would you call Stephen Bartlett an influencer?
No.
What would you call him?
The reason why is because Stephen Bartlett he came online as a business person first.
True.
Right?
True.
So that's why.
What about Kim Kardashian?
Kim K, she is an influencer. However, she wasn't through social. I feel like social media is where the influencer term is coined from. So if you've got famous off social media, like mainly, then I feel like that's what. But I think she was a reality star, so you see her as more as like a reality TV influencer.
True.
Every celebrity is an influencer now, right? Because everyone's online now. But I guess she was before the era of. It's a debate in it.
Yeah. It's interesting.
Okay, so you say content entrepreneur, businesswoman, right? Yeah. Okay, so what
Sorry, that
made
was
you
your
get
point.
online? Go on, tell us what made you start.
What made me come online? So I used to watch YouTube from like early. I feel like in year 9, my friend put me on to like watching YouTube. But this was when it was like a lot of like families, like just families that were daily vlogging, or there were like a lot of like relationship content and relationship pranks. That era of YouTube, maybe like 2014, 2015, 2016. I was watching YouTube from then, and I always felt like, oh, I'd love to just showcase that. Yeah, that looks like it's fun. But I think the turning point for me was I was watching this was a hair influencer as well on YouTube, and she was setting her goals for the month. I think it was like January. She was setting her January goals, and she was like, this month I want to make 50K. And at that point, as you were saying, I was in uni at this point. I was going into investment banking, and that was the starting salary. Like if you're going into investment banking, and you've got a good role, you're starting on 50K. And investment banking is one of your highest paying graduate roles that you could get, right? So if someone who is an influencer is saying that they want to make 50K in a month, and we are some of the smartest in the country and going into one of the hardest industries that you can get into, and we're only going to make 50K a year and work crazy hours, I was like, okay, this is not really adding up. And I think at that point you start to realize that your intelligence is divorced from income. And I think that's something that the internet and social media has done. It has before, it's like if you're smart, if you're a doctor, if you're a banker, if you're computer science or whatever, those were the people who were making the good money. Whereas now with the internet and social media, it's not that. Like your audience is your currency. And I think from just hearing her say that, that's when I realized that, oh yeah, the way to make money has changed. And so from that point, I was like, oh, I'm definitely going to go online.
Oh, okay, interesting. So it was financially motivated because you thought, okay, right, I can see somebody that's making my salary in a month, in a year, that I would make in a year in a month, and you thought, okay, I'm going to go online because clearly they know something that I don't.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and I also felt like because at this time, a lot of YouTube was, okay, you had your big natural hair community, you had your family daily vloggers, and then you had your couples that were doing pranks and stuff. And I remember just feeling like, and then we had this emergence of certain people who were at like Oxbridge. So we had like Nissy T from Cambridge who was coming online as well. And I was like, oh, there's no one from the university that I went to. And there's no one who is chasing a corporate career, but then is still wanting to show themselves online. And I remember not seeing that. I was like, I would like to do that. Like, I would like to, I guess, influence people in terms of actually, you can still have a corporate career and also be online and share a little bit of that. So I felt like I saw a gap in the market in terms of that. And then I came on to sort of fill that gap.
Amazing. Okay, interesting. And with your podcast now, so I noticed that your content has changed over the years. Would you agree?
Yeah.
So I feel like now, correct me if I'm wrong, you're very much focused on the to finances and educating people on finances and getting guests on, etc. What was there a reason for that transition, or was it just a natural? You're more interested in those sort of conversations now, or what was the reason behind the evolution? I'd say.
So I think the channel evolved as I evolved. So it started off where I was talking about getting like investment banking internships because that was the season that I was in. I guess what my channel had been up until the point where it changed into a podcast is for every stage of life that I was moving through, I was documenting it so that, because I knew at some point I'm going to be really, really successful. And then when people ask, how did you do it? It's literally outlined on my channel. Like I gave the blueprint on how I first got the internship in investment banking. I gave the blueprint on how I then converted that to a full-time role. I then gave the blueprint on how I used those roles to save money to then buy my first property and then buy the next one. So I felt like I was documenting the journey. And so as I was evolving and moving through certain stages, my channel sort of changed along with that. And then eventually I switched it into the podcast because in terms of just the trends wise, podcasts were doing very, very well. But I also felt like to sort of scale my channel, I didn't want to revolve it around me. And I also just felt like, there was a limitation on that because I'm not naturally someone who likes to like overshare. And it kind of felt like that was the way that the trend was going in terms of if you want lots of views, if I say I'm exposing my income or my salary, or if I'm sharing my relationship, if I'm doing something that I felt like is a little bit of oversharing, it felt like that was when the views would pour in, and I didn't want to do that. And so I saw switching it into a podcast as a way to scale very quickly, because it's not based on my knowledge and the stage of life that I'm at. It's really more so based on the guest. And so that's why it then evolved into the podcast. Yeah.
And with your podcast, how have you found that, and how do you find picking the guests? And I want to ask you that first before my next one. How do you find picking the guests?
So with the podcast, a lot of my early guests were my connections, people that I knew, that I wanted to sit down with and have a conversation with, or that I already sit down with and have conversations with, and I'm like, I think other people would benefit from listening to the conversations that we have. And I think that's one of the things that has really, really like changed my life, I guess, is some of the people that I'm able to get access to and some of the conversations that we have. And so I was like, I would love to expose people to this. And so a lot of the people that I was bringing on were people that I knew, or maybe like a referral from someone else that I knew, people that I wanted to meet. So that's how I got the majority of my first guests. And then once you sort of like have, after maybe like 6 months, you've probably like crossed the boundary of everyone that you kind of know or like you've seen on social media, then you have to get really, really strategic. So now like we are very, very strategic. So let's say, for example, currently in Dubai, there is an event the 1 Billion Summit is going to be next week. Yeah. So we would use that event as a way to get guests, because you already know that the people who they're going to invite to speak at the 1 Billion Summit, they've already been vetted in some way, shape or form. They're called to be speakers because they have something of value to offer. So we would usually go through lists like that and think, okay, which one of the people who have been invited to speak at this place would be good to have on the podcast. So for example, in last year, I went to InvestFest in Atlanta. Yeah. And my target for the majority of people that I brought onto the podcast during my time in Atlanta were people who were speaking at InvestFest, because I was like, well, this is perfect. Right. And a lot of the time, because people may fly in for that thing, they want to make their time in that city as productive as possible. It gets very, very strategic like that, but that's sort of how I go about getting guests.
And Dubai is great for that, because everyone's coming in for some sort of event or sort of something, so it's good. So Atlanta, actually, how did you find Atlanta?
How did I find Atlanta? Do you know what? I think I don't know if I can give a full assessment, because I don't know if I got the full experience. I was a little bit underwhelmed.
No way.
Yeah.
You've been there before, or was it your first time?
No, it's my first time. I feel like people really like sold it, but I do think it was the Atlanta that I experienced, because I was just, a lot of it was around InvestFest, and then I went out a couple of times with people that I met from InvestFest, but I don't think I covered the square mile of Atlanta. And like different cities, you will see different sides of it depending on who you know. Yes. But for me, I felt like I was like, and I think because even just in general, even with the event and stuff, Americans are very good at like bigging themselves up, like complete contrast to UK people, where someone might be doing extremely well, but will be like, oh, I just run this like, small business. Yeah, nothing crazy, whatever. Whereas America, they will be like, yeah, we launched this podcast. It's going to be one of the best podcasts ever. We've had amazing guests and And then you go and look at it and it's like, it's got like 42 subscribers and 3 episodes, and it's like not great quality. And so I was running into a lot of people like that. I think that's why I was just like, I thought this was the city of the black millionaires and stuff, but I didn't really see that much of that. But I feel like there's another side that I haven't tapped into. But yeah, how did you find it?
Yeah, I guess I didn't go at the Invest Fest. Yeah. Right? We just went randomly. I loved it. No, I absolutely loved Atlanta. Like we started a business there. That's how much we loved it.
Wow. Yeah. What did you love though?
I loved the energy. I loved, it just seemed like the land of opportunity. It seemed like it's a very fertile land for business. As a black person, I feel like there's a lot of strain. And I know the amount of strain that we went through setting up our business in the UK. Right. And not in a sense where it's like, everyone's racist. No, but you have to be aware that the kind of circles that you're operating in, that you do have to, there are just certain barriers that we just had to break through, right? But I feel like in Atlanta, because it is so black heavy and black excellence, I feel like it'll be quite easy. And it's not been easy, but I feel like it has been, quite straightforward, quite smooth, setting up a business there. Yeah, and getting custom. So from a business side of it, from us, we loved it. The energy, we're only there for a week. So again, and we only saw like one side. We were in Buckhead. So we only saw like one side.
Yeah, I don't think I spent enough time in Buckhead. Yeah, because I just got somewhere that was close to where InvestFest was going to be.
Okay.
So I think that was another reason why, because I saw a lot of crazy people, a lot of crackheads.
Yeah, see, we didn't see that. That's the thing. Yeah, we had all the stories, but we didn't see that. So maybe we were in a bit of a bubble where we were. But I mean, it's interesting. Are you going to go again?
Only if something takes me there.
Okay.
I wouldn't go out of just
your own
to go.
volition.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, interesting. So Dubai, let's talk about Dubai. Dubai, you're here, you're smashing it. How long have you been here now?
January 2023.
Okay, cool. And what brought you here? Your job?
Job.
Okay, cool. So give me your thoughts on Dubai. Do you think that is something that you're going to be here for the foreseeable? I mean, I feel like you've laid quite deep roots here. Obviously, we're in your workspace. You've now got a bricks and mortar business here now, which is amazing. And I feel like it just takes you to another level. When you've got like an online business, it's great and it's very low barrier to entry.
Yes.
But I feel like bricks and mortar, it kind of like tests you a bit more.
Yeah.
So I feel like, with Dubai, having a business here, how have you found it? Like, because I feel like a lot of people aspire to be here. A lot of people aspire to have businesses here. How have you found the bricks and mortar side of, Dubai in particular?
So how have I found? I think it's too early to say. Yeah, I think for the bricks and mortar, I think it's too early to say because we've only been open for I think like 6 weeks now. So ask me again like in a couple of months. But it's just in general though, switching from like being mainly online to then an in-person business. There are things that you would never have to really think about when you're kind of doing stuff online that you have to think about when you're doing a bricks and mortar business. So it's definitely a challenge. And yeah, I find it to be actually way more challenging doing an in-person business. But in terms of how I genuinely feel about Dubai, I feel like it's a place for the future. I genuinely feel like this region is going to become, particularly Dubai, I think it's going to become even more critical, especially for like the up and coming generations who want to find success. And the reason why I say that is because right now we are part of the wave of people that are coming in. At some point, right, once you bring in all of the wealthiest people, the smartest people, the richest people, whatever, into one place, this place will start to create its own opportunities just because of the type of people that you're bringing in. Whereas right now, a lot of the people that you meet, they usually have their businesses elsewhere. And this is just a place for them to live out the lifestyle. But I think over time, as the generations go on, this place is going to be the hub. Just like New York is somewhere where regardless of what you might think of how expensive it is, how many crackers they have on the street, because of the concentration of business and people and wealthy people that you have there, there's just opportunities there. Same with, I think London is losing a little bit of that, but regardless, there are so many incredible people that you meet in London just because of the concentration of successful people, of businesses, of commerce, finance, whatever. There's so many opportunities there. Yeah. And I think Dubai is on its way to being one of those places. And so for me, I find that my outlook on the region is pretty strong. And so I'm trying to lay roots here because I think for my children, this is one place that I would want them to also tap into.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And with, obviously, you've got roots in Dubai, you've got roots in London, and also you've got roots in South Africa as well. You've bought property in South Africa.
Yeah.
So why South Africa?
So I always get asked this question. I'm always like, I don't know if I overthought it that much. But so I was watching one of my friends. So I think it was December, and a friend of mine sent me, Chidi. She spoke at your event, right? Yeah. So she sent me her video. This was my first time coming across Chidi, and I just watched the YouTube video, and she was building a villa in Bali. And I think just seeing her do that, someone who was like my age, also Nigerian or whatever, I was like, oh my God, like I don't have to just focus and concentrate everything in the UK. Like there are opportunities all around the world. And at that time I was also watching Blood and Water, and I was seeing all of these crazy, crazy houses in South Africa. So I was like, oh, why don't I just book a trip to just go see it? Like it was never on my radar beforehand, but I was just like, okay, I watched something, let me just go do it. So I'm a very action orientated person. So I don't like to ponder on things too long and think like you saw something, you found it interesting, go and see.
Right.
And so I went, and as part of that, I don't know if maybe I was researching, and then I was also seeing some of the properties, maybe YouTube videos of the properties that were there. And I was like, this is crazy. So let me go see some properties while I'm out there. And then I went there, and I was just like, this is insane. Like the quality, and that's something that South Africa has that other places in Africa, let me not say other places. I'm just going to compare it to Nigeria. Like some of the quality that I've seen in South Africa versus the quality that I've seen in Nigeria, and the price that they charge you in Nigeria versus the price that they will charge you in South Africa, it's miles apart. Like miles apart. The quality is so good. Obviously, there is this element of they have a lot of European ties. So, like a lot of, for example, the company that I bought from is like they've built in Europe as well, and then they're also building. They also built in South Africa as well. So the quality was exceptional. And the price just wasn't that bad. So I was like, oh my God, this is insane. And I just really enjoyed my 2 weeks. So I spent some time in Joburg, I spent some time in Cape Town, and I just really enjoyed it. And I was like, this is somewhere that like I can come, I see wealthy Black people. I feel like I can fit in, like in terms of just kind of like just blend in, you know, not stick out. Like I know a lot of people like places in Asia and stuff, but I don't like feeling like,
yeah,
do you know what I mean? I don't like, do you know? Yeah. So
right.
I really like the ability to just blend in. It was cheap, and I was really into like this whole digital nomad thing at the time. And I was like, this would be the perfect place to be a digital nomad. And I was literally just like, okay, cool, let's do it.
Wow. Okay. So you didn't overthink it. You just liked it, and you just bought. So what's the ROI on something in South Africa? Would you say in comparison to like Dubai, UK? Is it quite a strong ROI there?
So the ROI is definitely among some of the best, and the reason for that is the property prices are really, really cheap. And so because of that, what you don't get in South Africa is you don't necessarily get good capital. You don't get good capital appreciation compared to places like Dubai, even compared to certain places in the UK. You don't get as good as capital appreciation, and you have to think about it in two ways. Some South Africans might argue that you do, but even if it goes up in Rand, that conversion, when you're comparing, Rand is their local currency, when you compare the Rand back to GDP, it may be going up in Rand, but in GBP it might be staying the same because of that currency conversion. So it's not necessarily a great capital appreciation play, but the ROI is very, very, very good. And
for like rental yield?
Yeah, the rental yield. So like around 12%, which is pretty strong. Even if you don't even have to do short-term rentals to get double-digit return on investment. And a lot of locals are not necessarily able to tap into that because their interest rates are very, very high. It's like, when I was looking, it was around 11-12%, which is insane.
That's crazy.
Is insane, exactly. And so because of that, I think that also is another reason why property prices are so cheap. And so you can get really good ROI. So really good ROI, not necessarily the best in terms of capital appreciation.
Yeah, but good to park your money. And
yeah,
make a little
good
cash
to just
flow.
enjoy it, make good cash flow.
Somewhere to, stay if you were to go over. If you were to do short lets, that's good. Interesting. No, I think I might, because the thing about me is like we always like looking outside of our environment as well. When I saw that you had stuff in South Africa, I was like, it's really random. So I'm really intrigued to know more. But it's quite accessible. Never.
You should
never.
go.
We've been invited loads. We've got a couple of friends out there.
Yeah.
But we've never been.
Just go.
It's never interested me, to be honest. And also everyone talks about the safety. That's another thing. Everyone says it's so unsafe out there. You're going to get robbed. And I was like, okay, cool.
Well, I mean, I lived there for 7 months and nothing happened to me.
Yeah.
But you just have to be aware, like with every country, especially if you're someone who wants to build wealth without borders, right? With every country has its pros and its cons. So there are certain things that you'll be able to do in South Africa that you can't do in Dubai or the UK. Like everything has its pros and cons, but you do have to remember that, especially with the crime rates, is that unfortunately, money is able to shield you from a lot of realities that everyday South Africans might face. But if you're coming over as a foreigner who has a stronger currency, you're going to be in areas where there's security everywhere. Like in the complex that I bought in, security would pace the corridors, not in like a scary way, but they would do rounds of the corridors. At every single entry point, there was security there. We had there's panic buttons if you can press, and then like the police would come. So like I didn't feel necessarily unsafe, but I'm not going to go to certain places because I know if I go to certain places, then certain things will happen. But for the most part, like, you'd be fine. But you have to know that it's not somewhere for you to be flashy. So if you're coming in with LV, if you're coming in all flashy, your flashy car, you will make yourself a target. So that's why, like, but same for in the UK.
Anywhere,
Literally in the UK, when I'm walking, I'll literally turn my ring like this. And like, because I don't want trouble. So it's just one of those places where you just have to adjust yourself for the place that
where
you're in.
you are.
Yeah.
Okay. So people see the results and everything. They see Lamide Elizabeth online. But I want to look into your day-to-day. Like, what's your typical day-to-day look like? Because you work for yourself. You're completely self-employed. You've got your podcast, you've got speaking events, you've got a lot of things going on. What's your typical day like?
It's so hard to answer that question because, and this is so, I remember when people used to say it and I just used to be like, roll my eyes, but there is no real typical day. Like yesterday, I landed at 7 a.m. Then I landed at 7 a.m. Then I did some work for then I took a nap because I think I'd only slept like 3 hours and I took a nap. Then I worked for like 4 hours, went to go do my hair. That took like 5 hours. And then I went to bed, woke up. Today was a little bit different. I went to the gym, did a little bit of work. Now I'm here. So there's no real typical day. And I think that's what I love about the life that I live now, because I think one of the things I didn't like when I was working in corporate was it just felt so same. Everything just felt so same. And I do like routine. I do like routine. I think there is a lot of strength in routine and it's easy to be disciplined when you fall into a routine. But I do like to switch things up because I think it keeps life interesting. So there is no real typical day. The 5 things, like I have like a tracker, a habit tracker that I like to do every single day. And that's read my Bible and pray, work out, take vitamins, read. And I don't know what the 5th thing is, but it's very like basic stuff that I keep. But the day to day is very different.
It's different.
Yeah.
What are you reading at the moment?
I'm reading The Psychology of Money.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, very good book.
Yeah, I read that one. It's good.
Made me who I am. This is not it. You wouldn't think this would be the answer, but it's my answer. And I think that the habit that has led to me being where I am right now is the fact that I can push through when I don't feel like it. And there is a lot of times, especially as a woman, even just dealing with hormonal imbalances and stuff, or when you're running like multiple different types of businesses, like it could be great and everything could be going great at once, but also you have multiple lines of businesses where something can be going wrong at some point in time. And it's if you're somebody who has this habit of like, once one thing throws you off, the whole day is over. I think that is one of the worst habits to have if you're trying to chase success. And I think what you will find with a lot of successful people is that they can take hits and still just keep going.
Yeah.
And I never allow myself to stay down for an extended period of time. So even just little things like, and I don't know if maybe I've never had like this long burnout period. Online you get a lot of people who are like going goes for 1 month, going goes for 1 week, going goes for an entire year because they are burnt out. I don't operate like that. Like if I need to take time out, we can have a nap for an hour and then you wake up and you get back to it. And I think it's that habit of like relentlessness that has led to me being where I am.
Yeah, I agree. I can see it all over you. Like you are very focused in what you're doing and you don't feel sorry for yourself.
Exactly.
And I feel like, and also you're not entitled. And I feel like hearing your story about how you were just in a normal school and off your own back, you just kind of looked for opportunities and then you kind of landed on, and you went through it.
Right.
I feel like that is just ingredients for success because you've already shown tenacity from quite a young age and curiosity as well. And I feel like that is how you are now, to be honest, with everything that you do. So in terms of you being online, I want to know, do you feel any pressure? Do you feel like there is a certain level of mental health involved in that? Do you feel like there is a level of like managing yourself, like being online? Because you're online a lot, you've got a lot of visibility. So, how do you find that in terms of the mental aspects of it? Do you take breaks or how do you manage that?
Interesting question. So I think the most important thing when you're putting out content online is to make sure that your offline life is better than your online life. I think there are too many people who create content who just want to create this perfect image that is not realistic of what their life looks like. And it's so easy to get down when, I don't know, the views aren't what you want, or maybe the image that you've put up slips. But when your offline life is better than what you put out online, the online stuff doesn't really faze you that much. For example, like So because I don't really talk about relationships online,
Yeah.
let's say if someone was trying to attack me, they would say stuff like, so I remember I did this episode with Boloso and we talked about, we didn't even spend that long talking about relationships, but I think we spoke about marriages and people overspending on weddings. And I think we spoke, and she said she would never give her 20s to a man and whatever. She got married in her 30s and whatever she said. And people's main attack, or a lot of guys were in the comments like, yes, said two single women, or and that's why you can't get this and this and that. And it's like, okay, cool. Like, I know my situation. I can let you run on with whatever you think it is, but I know what my situation is. Or when people will be like, oh, that's why, like, and that's why you would never get a man, especially if you're a woman and you talk about success, or people see you as operating in your masculine, they want to like attack it. That's why you're single. That's the go-to that they always want to go to. And it's like, I will literally take that, show my fiance now and be like, look what this person said. And we'll both laugh together. And it's like, because my offline life is better than what you see online. So whatever attack that you give, like, I'm like, whatever. And then I think on top of that, I think people who suffer with a lot of mental health when it comes to online stuff is that you are putting out things that you can't accept for people to criticize. So if there is an area of your life where you know that if people criticize this thing, it will affect me, don't put it out there. And so that's why for me, I have very strict boundaries with, even when it comes to doing interviews like this, like, I don't want to talk about this and that, because I don't want to hear other people's opinions on XYZ. If someone says to me, people say all the time, what do people say? Like, oh yeah, we know you're not really making that much money, or like, oh, why would you buy a property? Like, I don't care. Like if you criticize my finances or like advice that I give, like, my life is great at the end of the day. You're the one who's sitting there arguing with me. So it doesn't really affect me. But if there were things that I know would affect me or would annoy me, I just take that stuff.
Don't put it online.
I just don't put it online.
Yeah.
And I think you need those boundaries, because otherwise you will be very much like a yo-yo. And I think just in general, I'm very strict with social media and what I consume. Like, Shade Borough is blocked. Oh yeah, the Kardashians 100%. Are blocked. There are so many things. Even if I'm like going through a comment section and I see someone be nasty to someone else, blocked. Like, I don't play about like the stuff that I'm consuming. Yeah. Even YouTube, I have YouTube recommendations off. It's off. I only the stuff that I subscribe to do I take in, and I think that helps me to stay in a sane mental space. So I've never had these like burnout stuff with social media, but also I don't keep social medias on my phone. Like, the only one I have on my phone is LinkedIn. Instagram is gone. TikTok is gone. I can download it if I need to upload stories, which some people be like, that's just so long, just put on the timer thing. And I'm like, no. Like, I keep it off my phone. My assistant helps with a lot of posting. And I just have really strong boundaries, I guess.
That's really good. Yeah. That's really good. I think that's really smart as well. And I think that's good advice for anyone that is like coming up on social media, to just not have the apps on your phone. Yeah. You know, and
you get sucked in.
And you'll probably be a bit more strategic with how you post.
Exactly.
As opposed to just blamming anything that people don't actually want to see.
Right.
No, that's really good advice. So as you've grown online and in life, you know, when it comes to like women and business, women and evolution, I feel like there can be sometimes friction. A lot of people talk online about like, you know, friends and people like, you know, not supporting or like relationships changing. You know, you're a young woman, you're in your 20s, right? You're doing amazing things. Have you ever experienced anything when it comes to like friends or just like, you know, people changing as you're elevating?
So I think I have, but one thing, what was, you said something I was going to answer. Can you ask the question again?
So I didn't actually write it down, but it was it was about basically as you're growing, you're elevating, right? And sometimes relationships can change with friendships, and sometimes, you know, especially with what I do, I hear a lot of women talk about like friends and relationships, even with partners, where it can cause like friction, or you know, you just notice a change, or you know, you just have to move a little bit different sometimes.
Yes, I remember what I was going to say. So I think the first thing with like friends supporting and stuff, I actually don't have any expectation for my friends to support me. And I know that might sound weird, but for a lot of the times, like, are your friends even your target market? Like, are they the people? I know that your friends should support you. point blank period. But I don't check. Like, I know some people who will be like, you didn't like my last post, or you didn't check my last story. I'm like, why are you even checking that? Like, why are you so in the weeds as like looking for negativity? Like, I don't do that sort of stuff. Obviously, like, if someone comments on your post, you're very cognizant of like the people who comment and whatever, but I don't dig too deep into that stuff. And I also know that my friends are not my target market. So whatever. And whenever they do share, I think my expectations are low. So whenever they do share, I'm like, oh, that's so nice. Thank you so much. Like, that's so sweet. Rather than like expecting people to go above and beyond because you're doing something. But then even having said that, I have really good friends. I think that I don't like to, interestingly enough, with certain friends who may not necessarily be on the same path in terms of like, maybe they're not really into business or whatever. I'm not someone who takes that into those relationships. I think some people don't know how to segment parts of themselves, but I think I can do that quite well. So I know that there are certain friends where the conversation isn't really going to be about business and finances. The conversation might be about gym. And I have friends who are not really into business, but they killing it at the gym. So we're going to send each other memes and stuff that's to do with fitness or whatever. And we keep the relationship like that. And I have other friends who are very spiritual. And so whenever it's like when they're going through something, or even if you're going through something, they're the person to have the conversation with. And so I can segment my friends to the point where I don't have to, and they also don't have to feel like, she is acting up or acting some different sort of way. I can definitely say that I am the same. I am the same that I was 5-10 years ago. I am the same. And so, but the only thing that I am interested to see is because right now, my whole motto through my 20s has been like focusing on assets and not liabilities. And so I don't necessarily show off my wealth as much. And so I don't know if that could change because, for example, if I'm in the UK and my friends come over, you're still going to come to my mum's house. Could it be different if you're coming over and it's like a massive 4 or 5 bedroom house with a luxury car outside? I don't know, but I'd like to think not. And I like to think that my friends are like happy for me. But I wouldn't say that there hasn't been times where I've noticed their behavior has changed a little bit, but like I really don't try to internalize those things. And as it pertains to other relationships in my life, I think probably the most annoying things is like family expectations. Like when you talk about money and stuff online, when people think that now they can ask you for money or like stuff like that. That's probably the most annoying thing. Otherwise, like,
no, you manage your expectations with your friends and you can, segment your friends. My friends for this, my friends for that.
Yeah.
No, I think that's good. I think that's good advice as well. Because I feel like people do go through the whole phase of like, especially when you're coming up where it's like, oh, this person's not supporting me, they're not supporting me, etc. Because obviously they're still figuring things out.
Yeah.
So it's like the expectation is there for you to get support from people that you love and that but I guess it takes a certain level of elevation mentally for you to be like, do you know what, actually, if I base my business on you coming to buy from me, keeps you grounded, but you're moving at 100 miles an hour, a lot of things going on, recently engaged. What keeps you grounded when you've got so much going on in life as a young woman, living in Dubai on your own? Like, don't lose your head. People come to Dubai, they lose their head, they lose who they are. They can end up in circles of people that they don't necessarily want to be in. They can get very, even just with more fame, even with more exposure. Do you know what I mean? Like, what keeps you kind of like steady?
I think people who come to, like, if you came somewhere and you lost yourself, I would question whether you ever really found yourself in the first place. Because I think if you really did know yourself and was very strong with who you are, how do you, because I attract people who are very similar to myself. Like, I hear a lot of people who come to Dubai like, oh my God, there's so many fake people, there's so many this people. And I think it's because I'm very selective. Like, I'm not necessarily someone who's going to be going out there making friends with every Tom, Dick and Harry. And so because of that, I feel like my experiences with meeting people out here has been so positive. Whereas I have other friends who's like, every day it's a new story of like this person and that person. And I just can't relate to that because I think I attract people who are very similar to myself. And I know myself. And so even if someone was a particular type of way that maybe is attractive to the general population, if you're not my kind of person, I'm not going to be fussed with being your friend. Like, I'm not that person who like chases clout or who always wants to be friends with who's popping. And I know a lot of people who are like that. Like, they just, if someone is doing well, they want to be associated with that person. Whereas for me, if someone is doing well, good for you. But we don't need to be friends.
Yeah.
And so I think that I have a very, very strong sense of self. And so I think that, if anything, does keep me grounded. And I'm also not a people pleaser, like at all. Like, I don't actually understand people pleasers.
No.
And so I think that, but then I still, everything that, because, you know, when people are kind of like, I don't know, I don't see how, I think I do live in a bubble. So in terms of like being, like not being, I don't know what not being grounded would look like. I do realize that I do live in a bubble. And sometimes when I come out of that bubble, I'm like, oh, life is different for some people. So
because my husband says to me all the time, he says, you've lost touch of reality. He says, you've lost touch of
what it's really like for everyday people.
The perception of money. So I've lost the perception of money. So
what do you do that triggers him to say that? What sort of stuff?
So for example, like, say, I don't know, we'll book something or purchase something, and I've been, oh, that's all right, that's not too much. And it's like, he's like, what? Like, that is a lot. But then I think to myself, actually, yeah, to be fair, like 10 years ago, that would have been a lot for me to purchase. That would have been a big deal for me. Not that it's not a big deal, but that, and if I can't say that in front of certain people, right? So it's like, I'm very aware that I can't be a certain way because I have to think about their situation.
Yes.
So I feel like if I was to be in front of certain members of family, and I'd be like, oh, you know, I don't know,
it's only £1,000.
Right, exactly. They'd be like, what? Like, you know, that's ridiculous to say that. So I feel like, you know, for me, what keeps me grounded is my family. Like my do you know what I mean? Because it makes me just not lose touch. Although I'm like doing business, whatever, but I feel like once I have that check-in with my mum or with my sisters or whatever, it keeps me like, okay, cool, Tommy, don't get too crazy. Like, remember, people's situation is not like your own, and you know, it kind of makes me get out my bubble, like you're saying, out of your bubble for a second and be like, okay, you know.
But I think you need both though. I think you also have to be in your bubble, because if you're trying to aim for more, like I had to, like I remember when I first came here and I was having a conversation with someone and she was like, oh yeah, like we tried out this idea, lost £50,000, and I was just like, at the time, to me I was like, you lost 50,000, but you need to get used to that if you are trying to do business, or if you're trying to scale up, if you're trying to make a lot of money, if you're trying to make a lot of money, you have to get used to spending a lot of money. So if you're still holding on to, oh, I can't spend £40 on a cleaner because, oh my God, then you're never going to be able to elevate. But then you do need that certain reality check. But it only depends. I think you just have to be aware of who you are around.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and not to offend them. But like the bubble is also good, because you kind of need to. I remember there's this one crazy guy that I met in Atlanta. And I remember him saying that like he doesn't have any, I'm not saying I agree with this, but he was saying that he doesn't have any friends who make less than seven figures. Like, you cannot be my friend if you make less than 7 figures. And we were like all combating him, but like, what if like I was saying, like, what if this is your friend who you go to church with? Like, this is a really good friend for your spiritual life. And he was like, yeah, but why can't I find a friend who's good for my spiritual life that also makes 7 figures? And we're like, there was just so many things. And I was just like, even though I don't agree with that, with the kind of money that he is making, I know that sort of mindset is what has taken him to where he is right now. So even though, to me, to a lot of people, like, you've lost touch with reality, but to get to where he is, there is a certain level of mentality that you have to have. And so it's just like, well, you know what, you do you. Like, so yeah, I think I still have kept my friends. My friends are 10 years,
That's
15
good.
years.
That's amazing.
My family. So there's still a level of like groundedness there, but I am very much okay to not allow other people's reality to be my reality.
Yeah. Have you ever found, because I found this a lot, I don't know if it's just me, but I always like to like pull people up. I don't do it as much anymore because I realised that actually I'm affecting myself a lot more than I am the other person. But in your come up, would you say that you were very much like, let's do this together, you could do this too, you're amazing too?
Yeah, I definitely, when I first, like, I guess got a little bit of enlightenment. I was like, okay, no, I want better for myself. Better for myself is possible. I definitely was just wanting everyone to sort of see the light that I have seen. But then I think at some point you have to realize that like people's aspirations and goals in life are so different.
Yeah.
Like, and you can't think that yours is better because yours might involve more money or more of what you deem as success. Because for someone else who their goal is just, I know there are some people who are like, I just want to be a mother and a wife. Like,
but do you actually think that's somebody's goal?
I do.
Okay, so when they've achieved motherhood and wifehood, then what?
Mate, you gotta ask them because I don't get it. But I really do think that there are some people who just, I don't know, maybe they just really love kids.
That.
You think they're pretending?
They're not pretending, but what it is, I feel like the goalpost always changes in life, and you have different seasons in life. So I feel like maybe like when you're young and maybe you see a woman in their 30s, you think she's got kids, you think, oh wow, she's got kids, she's got a husband. Wow, this looks amazing. Okay, then when you get there, then it's like, what's the next phase of your life going to be like? So I feel like it's one step in a woman's life.
Yeah.
That I feel like, yeah, a lot of women aspire to it, but I feel like, you know, I feel personally that if you are a woman and, you know, you are a wife and a mother, I feel like there'll be something inside of you that's a bit dormant. There's something inside of you that is untapped. And I feel like if you don't tap into that, you're going to start to grow resentment. And I've seen it so many times. I've seen it. Like, you know, so I feel like, yes, you know, you might be young and think, yeah, I want a wife. But I feel like once you hit that, you're going to feel like this is
Something's missing.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, like you say, like, I guess some people believe that that's all they want to achieve. So yeah, like, you know, everybody's goals in life are completely different, you know.
And like, it's like, yeah, and I think people even do the same with like spiritual stuff as well. Like, let's say when they get saved and now it's like, oh, all of you, like, you're so bad, you sinners, you this, you that. And they come up so like, because they have seen the light, it's like everybody must see it at the same time in the same way that I have done it. But how many times, let's say for the person who just recently got saved, how many times have other people tried to reach out to you and it just wasn't the right time? And you waited until it was the right time for you, and now you've had this enlightenment, but you have to have that same level of like grace and understanding for other people that maybe this just isn't their season. Maybe you're not the person that's going to be able to motivate them into wanting more, and that is okay. Like, you can't actually take everyone with you. But then when they do reach out and they're like, you know, like if one of my friends said to me, okay, you know what, I actually really want to take my finances seriously, like what things can I do? Then it's like, amazing, yes, let's do this. Exactly. But I don't think that you can. I think it will just drag you down if you feel like you have to lift everyone up with you.
It comes from a very good place, comes from a beautiful place, but I feel like, yeah, that's one thing I feel like we have to be mindful of as women. I feel like women are very nurturing. You know, we have that about them. You know, you want to see your friends do well, but I feel like, yeah, if you're not smart or you don't clock onto the fact that this is actually damaging, then you're gonna drag yourself down.
Exactly.
Really. Yeah. So, Lamide, if social media was to, I know that you said earlier you're not influencer, so everything was to go tomorrow, right? What would you know, actually I've learned a lot about you in this interview, but who would Lamide Elizabeth be? Like, you know, without social media. Obviously
Without
you've got your bricks and mortar businesses, you know, you've got your property investments. I know it's quite a difficult question, isn't it? Who would Lamide Elizabeth be?
I don't think I'd change very much.
Yeah,
to
it doesn't
be
sound like
honest.
it. Yeah.
Like a lot of the stuff I do in terms of, let's say, helping investors get property in Dubai, I can do that without social media. I just have to find other means of reaching my customers, but I'd find another way. I don't think I'd change. I don't think I'd change very much.
I think what's nice about this interview is that I've learned that you are very much an offline person, which is actually quite refreshing, to be honest. Like, especially Gen Z. I feel like Gen Z are very much online, which is amazing. You guys are growing up with it a lot more than we have. Yeah. But I feel like it's so nice to see the balance as well with you. So it's like, you know, your life offline is a lot better than online, which is amazing. That's the ultimate goal, really, isn't it? Because you see loads of people online flashing, etc. And, you know, when you meet them in person, you're like, you're not actually saying a lot. Yeah. You know?
But I think it's because, like, I would rather be rich than famous. And I think a lot of people come online seeking fame.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, true. Yeah. But maybe because they think that's their route to riches.
But then I would argue that I think some people genuinely prefer fame to riches. They just want people to, like, obsess over them. They want to inflate themselves. Like they want to, it feeds their ego. Like all the likes and everything feeds their ego. And that's actually what they seek more than like, because some people like, I don't know, if I didn't have to be on social media, I think I still would, just for the passion part of it, but maybe not as much.
Yeah.
If the finances were the way I wanted it to be, I'd definitely be a little bit different.
So what's the biggest takeaway from the guests that you've had? Like, what's the biggest thing that you've learned? You've probably learned a lot of things, but is there any that stand out to you that's like, oh, this really changed my mindset?
So many. I literally just like consolidated this ebook of like all of these lessons that I learned from my podcast guests. But I think one of the ones that I needed to hear was, if you are trying to build generational wealth, you need to elongate your timeline for doing it. Because I was always, being younger, has always kind of been like 30. I don't know, you just had this 30 as this cutoff point for when everything needs to be done and finalized for. And one of the things that a couple of the guests have said is like, if you're trying to build generational wealth, you have to be cognizant that it can take generations. This is not a 3-year, 5-year, it's not a get rich quick thing. This is something that you want to last. And so if you want it to last, you have to build it on good foundations, and that can take 10 years, 15 years to fully do it. And I think if anything, it's more freeing because it's less pressure to like, everything has to be perfect by 30. Where it's actually like, there's life after 30 as well. And
is that what you thought?
I feel like society does that though, to women especially. It's like 30 is like, after that, and it's like,
you're on a shelf now.
Yeah. So
do you feel like, well, I guess you've not, I do feel like when you do get to 30, expectations do change though. Like I think for like as a woman, like in terms of kids and marriage, I think by 30, I feel like society puts the pressure that side of your life should be kind of sorted out, you know? So I feel like, yeah, you're right. There is a pressure there, but I feel like financially, it's like, you know, some people just start building like wealth in their 30s, you know? So, okay. So, and last question I want to ask you is, what does having it all look like to you realistically?
I would say right now, I feel like I have it all. I'm very happy and content with my life now. And I think a lot of that is to do with, one, gratitude for sure, but also just freedom and flexibility. Like freedom and flexibility for me is having it all, just the ability to choose what I do, how I spend my time, who I spend it with. And so even as life goes on and more responsibilities come, so let's say, for example, having children, etc., it's going to be so critical for me to maintain like a level of freedom and flexibility. I know it's not necessarily going to be the same, but like, yeah, my partner already knows like freedom and flexibility is crucial. So things like nannies, cleaners, whatever is needed so that I don't feel like I'm like burdened and held down.
You don't intend to be like attached to the kitchen then though?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. So for me, that would be having it all, just that freedom and flexibility.
Yeah. No, I agree. I feel like it changes as well as life goes on, you know, but yeah, I feel like you're amazing, Lamide, and I'm sure you hear it all the time that you're amazing, you've achieved a lot, but you know, I feel like you're great. I feel like you're really great for the generation now of girls growing up in their 20s, figuring life out. I feel like you're such a good benchmark for them to kind of, you know, be motivated, know exactly what to do, get advice, because you pour out a lot with your podcast and everything that you do. It's very much a giving. You're giving a lot of people the amount of things that even I've heard. I spoke to a lady the other day and she's like, yeah, I watched Lamide. She watched me on Lamide's podcast, but she was like, oh, I always watch her podcast. Like as soon as they come out, I'm logged on, I'm watching them, you know, and she said, I've learned so much from her. You know, she was like praying for you. And I was like, yeah.
Amen. I hope it was good prayers.
Yeah,
Amen.
absolutely. Yeah. So well done with what you're doing. And I'm really excited for your future.
Well, thank you. Yeah. Thank you so much. I enjoyed this conversation.
Yeah, me too. So thank you guys. And we'll see you on the next podcast. Bye.